Hey, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up? A gracious good morning to you good people. It's your girl KB. You know what I do and you know why I do it. It's Tuesday morning. It's July 21st and it is 2:39 in the a.m. Yesterday, I posted a video talking about dysfunctional communication and generational curses and things of this nature. I believe it's Fix It Before It's Too Late. I believe that's what I entitled it. And I'm going to talk about a little bit more on what I mean by this. Now, I was raised old school. I need to say that. I don't understand the concept of gentle parenting. You know, I'm not negotiating with somebody whose brain is not fully developed, let me put it like that, and who's in the throes of pleasure seeking at all times. You know, that kid that says, I'm bored. That kid that's always into something. That kid that thinks they know it all and has permission to talk back. See, I blame social media for a lot of that. I'm not saying what kids have to say is not important, but on some levels, social media has kind of escorted them into a place of entitlement and disrespect. But that does not mean in your correction and your chastisement that you have permission to break the spirit of a child. Your job is to recognize that spirit, develop that spirit, and to guide it into, I want to say a healthy passion, a healthy outlet. Not to say it's invaluable, not to be controlling, because each and every one of us is a unique being, and each and every one of us has calling and purpose. So I don't understand, parents who are so fragile that they have to micromanage every aspect, and if that means breaking the spirit of a child, they're all for it. I grew up in that setting. And I grew up, I have no other way to phrase this. I mean, I do, but I'm choosing not to. Let me put it like that. I grew up with a dysfunctional ass father who was an alcoholic, who was physically and mentally abusive. And I reached the age where I determined, notice I said I determined, no more. It's like, this is it. So, that means I have to take a beating. I'm going to take that beating, but you're not going to run over me and you're not going to break me. See, I watched over the years, my father physically break my mother. And, my sister said something a while back when we were talking about it that just broke my heart. In that, I said I grew up in the domestic violence was horrific. And there's nothing more disturbing as a little kid to hear your parent, your love, your life's blood getting beat. and knowing that you're defenseless as a kid. And like I said, when I reached a certain age, all bets were off. You know, I was the volatile child. You know, you never knew how I was going to show up, and I kept it that way because it's like, look, bruh, I ain't the one, the 2, the 3, the 4, or anything else after that. So, you know, people learn to tread lightly because they knew I would buck. And by people, I mean adults, because they knew I would buck. And, you know, the trouble that I would bring about was far more than the slight that they perceived or received. I'm not saying I can't be corrected, but I'm not going to allow you to be manipulative or abusive towards me. Yeah, I could take a pull-up and I can take correction. But you're not going to tell me anything. You know, just because you're mad. You're not going to play in my face, so to speak, or play with my emotions. So I learned to stand up for myself that way. And I carry myself that way to this day. See, when you break a child's spirit, you're creating an enemy. You know, you're creating some lifelong resentments, and you're creating another dysfunctional parent. See, we don't think about the generational ramifications. And I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. You know, there's a generational thread for folks who are raised old school, and it's sad that we know this acronym. And I'm going to say it, and I'm going to let you kind of figure it out. The acronym is GYBAITG DHRNBIBYMFA. So write that down, and you can tell if you're old school if you know what that means. And I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it a little slower this time. GYBAITGDHRNBIBYMFA. This is the old school measure. If you know that acronym, if you can fill in the letters, I'm going to tell you, you may have some work to do. And I'm also going to tell you that as a gardener, as the tender of soil to young lives, we need to look at what we're planting.